writing and does some podcasting and does a show with Cardozo. We'll get his thoughts on what's going on in the sports world. Second portion of today's program. Good morning, JC. Did the
Yeah.
Rangers win last night? Apparently they did. If you're wearing
No,
their
they
hat,
no, they were off. I think they were off. But the Reds,
I think they lost. I'm
oh,
looking right now.
you know what?
You're wearing a hat of a loser, JC.
Cincinnati was off last night. I wore the Reds hat.
The Rangers lost 8-5 yesterday.
Right, they did lose, but they are in first place in their division, and the red is what they wear at home, and they wear blue hats on the road. I think they're the only team that has two different colored hats for when they play on the road and when they play at home. But baseball, to me, it's the summer pastime, right? So here we are, June 30th. We're about to end the first two quarters of the year. So we're halfway through 2023, and now we've got 2 months basically before we start kicking into football. And we've got, I think, these magazines. I know the Phil Steele magazine comes out in July, so we're going to have that coming up here in a couple weeks to read and to get all excited about and to listen and look at all these projections. And it's really pretty simple to me. Georgia will be undefeated by the end of the year and play the SEC championship. What else you want to know? And if Georgia doesn't do that, then we may have something interesting in the SEC this year.
JC, I'm going to give you this trivia question because we had it on earlier in the week. Georgia's going for a three-peat.
Yeah.
Well, who's the last team
to three-peat?
The three-peat.
Goodness gracious. Oh, man. Well, you stumped me. Off the top of my head, three-peating, that has to be during the voting when people voted, no?
All right, I'm gonna save you some time. I don't remember the year. It's like 1934, the Minnesota Golden Gophers.
How the hell would I know that?
The Minnesota Golden Gophers.
But, okay, great. The Minnesota Golden Gophers. By the way, speaking of the Big Ten, this did remind me of something. I had another conversation with my Big Ten friend from Ohio. He says the SEC sucks. I go, right, okay. Tell me why before I just laugh you off the phone. And he said, well, you guys only want to play each other 8 games this season. I said, hold on a minute. The champion plays 9 conference games because there's a championship game. Okay, fine. But let me ask you a question. Seriously, would you rather have Nebraska schedule in the Big Ten West and play 9 games? Or would you rather have Auburn schedule in the SEC West and play 8 games? Just be honest. Tell me what you would rather have. Who would you rather play? Illinois, Wisconsin, Northwestern, and Minnesota, or would you rather play Alabama, Georgia, LSU, and I don't know, somebody from the East like Florida or Tennessee? Who would you rather play? Just tell me.
What did he say?
Well, Ohio State, blah, 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 blah. He didn't even answer the question. And that's what happens when you pose a question to somebody that doesn't have a rebuttal that makes sense. They just change the topic or just circulate back to something stupid. Penn State is going to be a surprising team in the Big Ten East this year. But I'm tired of calling it the Big Ten. It's the Sweet 16 or the Super 16 because now you've got UCLA and USC coming in. It has nothing to do with 10. And by the way, the Pac-12 is not Pac-12. It's the Pac-10 now because they just lost 2 teams. And they're trying to find somebody to come into their league to try to save that league from being bankrupt and dissolving. Then you have the ACC. They've got problems because their grant of rights is locked up for the next 13 years. So nobody's happy there. So who's going to get good in the ACC? Who's going to challenge Clemson in the ACC? Everybody that says it's going to be Florida State, Florida State, Florida State. So, these are things that I kind of think about before these magazines open up, and I look at them and I start reading and I go, wow, look, this is great. This schedule is great. Nothing's changed in 23. It's going to be pretty much just like what we're used to. And then in 24, 25, and 26, we go forward. But I'd much rather play Nebraska schedule in the Big Ten West than Auburn schedule in the SEC West, okay? So, or Arkansas's, or Tennessee's even in the East. So that's don't want to hear this crap about 9 games. They made the decision. Nobody wants to play 8 games in the SEC, much less play 9. If you're playing from a team like Purdue or Illinois or Minnesota, nobody cares. Nobody cares. I mean, those
don't forget Maryland. Don't forget Maryland and Rutgers.
Oh, I forgot Maryland and Rutgers. So that really adds a lot of quality to the conference. Yeah.
All right. Andy asked on Facebook Live, brought to you by Melon Law. Shane, did you watch the Mahomes, Kelsey versus Steph and Klay Thompson golf match last night? I did not even know it was on.
I didn't either. I mean, that was one of the. Yeah, who won? Did Mahomes win?
I would guess
I would guess Klay
I would
Thompson.
guess Steph's team won. He's the better golfer of all those guys.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. He
All
wins.
right, let's see here.
He knows
We got
well
some
out there. Marathon in Lake
Reggie
Tahoe.
says, looks like there's some serious culture issues in Athens. I see a big drop coming if they keep it up.
What are they keeping up? What have they started?
Oh, you have not read the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, JC?
Damn, they didn't deliver it to the driveway the other day.
Well, it came out like last week. Georgia has a lot of sexual
okay, I did read something
cases.
Yeah, I read something about
all the drunk driving, the speeding. They got some serious things going on.
Okay, yeah, all that off-field stuff. What usually happens with it? It gets resolved internally or externally off the field. And yeah, I mean, Reggie, you might be right, but I mean, you might be right. There could be some certain distraction. But let's just be honest, man. Look at their schedule. They can win 10 games without even, playing both sides of the ball. They can. Yeah. It's just ridiculous. So I'm not.
Just in case you were worried, Mahomes and Kelsey won 3 and 2.
Okay, then. Well, so much for what we know on celebrity golf. I guess Kelsey must be pretty decent, but here, I know Clay. I know your guy Curry is.
He's a very good player. Yeah, but just because they lost doesn't mean they're not the better player. I mean, it's golf. Rick says, didn't Ohio State get in the 14 playoff with less games played than the other 3? Wasn't that a few years ago? So go tell Bucky, take true. That.
Rick's right. I mean, that's absolutely right. Yeah, they beat Clemson, and then they ran into Devontae Smith and Mac Jones.
Yeah.
So that was such a embarrassment of talent on the field and just basic scheming. What Steve Sarkisian did to that poor Ohio State team defensively was criminal. It was criminal. And I mean, you sat in my living room and watched. He says, "Damn, Buckeye, Sark is scheming y'all up." And you said that. And the guy next to you, who we both know that played in the NFL, he was laughing as well because it was just such a lesson. It was a lesson in how to matriculate the ball down the field in a very small amount of time. So yeah. I get in arguments with LSU fans all the time about who was better, the 19 Tigers or the 2020 Alabama team. And it's almost impossible to answer that. But I will say there's one thing that's different between the two. The Alabama team played 10 conference games during COVID. The LSU team let a bunch of other teams score a lot of points on them, but they just outscored everybody. So I don't know. They were great. Joe Burrow's great. He's going to get. Has he signed that contract yet, Cincinnati?
Not that I'm aware of.
All right. So when he signs that contract, will it be larger than Lamar Jackson's?
Yes.
Or Jalen Hurts?
Yes.
Wow, that's Cincinnati. That Cincinnati team does not have a history of spending money, but they know they can't let this guy go, or their franchise is going to just flutter.
John says on Facebook Live, did you see that Jim Harbaugh and Michigan instituted a Georgia period in their fall camp? Yeah, I mean, a lot of teams do stuff like that. When there's a one team out there, you have a 10-minute period of practice about, whether it's tackling drills, whatever it can be. We're getting ready for the Georgia Bulldogs or whatever team it is. So, JC, the other day you weren't on here, but I just find it fascinating. I talked about the 2016 top 30 quarterbacks in America due to that 24/7 comes out with. And I went through it. I'm not going to bore our people, but I mean, nobody had heard of them. Now, the 2015, there's a lot of guys on here that people have heard of and did real well, but I'm going to read them real quick in order from one. I'm just going to read the top 15. All right. Josh Rosen, Blake Barnett, Kyler Murray, Jarrett Stidham, Brandon Wimbush, DeAndre Francois, Brady White, Jake Browning, Ricky Town, Drew Lock, Travis Jensen, Sam Darnold, Jawan Jennings, Zach Gentry, Ty Story. Okay, that's just the top 15.
And one guy on that list there's only one guy on that entire list that's making meaningful money in the NFL. One.
Kyler Murray.
That's correct.
And he won a Heisman Trophy. However, if you scroll down, number 20 is Joe Burrow.
Oh.
Okay. If you keep scrolling down, some dude named Lamar Jackson is 28th on this list.
He's done okay.
Yeah.
Except
So
I still remind everybody that my man Lamar's won one playoff game and he was lucky to win it. I still tell everybody that. They don't understand.
but the 2015 class is a lot better than the 2016. The 2016 I read the other day, and half them dudes never took a snap in college football, much less pro ball. But this has some decent players. But some of these dudes, I mean, Blake Barnett signed with your school, number 2 quarterback in the world.
He was the starting quarterback when Alabama played Southern Cal in Dallas for 2 possessions. You know who replaced him? And we never saw Blake Barnett again.
What year was this?
Whenever Blake Barnett got that start. 2016.
So it would have been 2015, 2016, 2017. McElroy?
It was Jalen Hurts.
Oh, Jalen Hurts. Okay.
And Jalen Hurts, we didn't even know who he was either. But Blake Barnett was the savior for Alabama football's quarterback problems. He played 2 possessions. And you know what? And then Jalen Hurts fumbled the football on his first possession as he replaced Blake Barnett, and nobody in the crowd in Dallas at Jerry World knew what we were going to do next. And then Jalen Hurts just stayed in the game and got used to playing quarterback. But Blake Barnett disappeared after 2 possessions where he started for Alabama. And it may have been more than 2, but it was about 2 possessions until they took him out. So
yeah, John said he heard Phil Steele and Bomb say that A&M has 10 starters returning on defense, 10 starters returning on offense.
Who does?
They should be good. He said A&M does. Look, here's the thing. I think A&M is going to be a very good football team this year, only because of Bobby Petrino. They have the best wide receiving core in the league, maybe in all of America. And they are, if they get good quarterback play. Now, I've said this multiple times. When you have a bunch of starters coming back from a bad football team, that doesn't mean that's a good thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
We know that these kids have talent. We know that they're talented.
Right. But sometimes you see these teams where they got 18 returning starters. Well, hell, they won 2 games last year. Okay, so them dudes may not be very good. So we'll see. But I do think A&M is going to be. I think A&M is going to win 9 or 10 games this year. I really do.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. The West. I think with LSU, Alabama, Texas A&M, the West is going to be tremendous. And I still maintain that Mississippi is going to surprise people, even though you don't think they're that good. And they may not be, but we'll see. But
I don't think they're going to win 7 games.
All right. Well, what we should do is right about in August, before we head out to Utah, we should get every team in the SEC and do an over-under on their win total and then write it down and see who's right.
Well, you're supposed to be the bookkeeper, and you never keep good books.
Well, I'm going to keep books for that. When we get to that point, before we head out to Utah to start the season, we're going to run down every team's wins over-under, and we're going to see what we see by December.
So, okay, so since we have nothing really to talk about today, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back because I just scrolled through it because it popped up on my Twitter again. Here's your 2016 QB list in order: Shea Patterson, Jacob Eason, KJ Costello, Malik Henry, Felipe Franks, Brandon Peters, Dwayne Haskins, Jack Allison, Austin Kendall, Patrick O'Brien, Messiah DeWeaver, Jake Bentley. That's your top 12.
Jack Allison. I mean,
Jack Allison went to.
Who the hell is that?
He went to Miami.
Oh, yeah. Him and Jim Kelly and Gino Toretta. But hey, I think this is fine because these online agencies get clicks. They make money doing this kind of crap. And that's okay because people buy it. It's just about selling a service. They love this stuff. I don't know why. I couldn't, Jack Allison. But hey, whatever. It's okay, QB. Don't
John.
It's all ruffled over.
John says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon. John must have a lot of downtime. He must be reading these magazines.
Yeah, okay.
He says, QB, have you seen Tulane's schedule? They have a possibility of going 12-0. Do you think they can make the playoff? No, I don't. Not this year. Maybe next year they could, but I'm telling you, Tulane's got a really good quarterback, Michael Pratt. We wanted him.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, he didn't want to leave Tulane. Kudos to him. I have not looked at their schedule. They do play Ole Miss, though.
Yeah.
I think in Tulane, at Tulane in New Orleans, in that little stadium they got.
Oh, it's at the little stadium or the Dome. I can't imagine Ole Miss not playing in the Dome. They would go
No,
to play.
Tulane doesn't play in the dome anymore.
That's right. You're right. They play on that campus stadium. It is small. But, listen, Michael Pratt loves his school. He loves his teammates. He loves his coaches, and he loves where he lives. Is there anything more important than any of that? Yeah, well, I want to go play for a national championship. How'd that work out, Caleb Williams? So, I mean, he may this year.
Well, he did win the Heisman Trophy, JC.
Okay, great. He would have won it at Oklahoma. But I think, look, it's okay. I mean, I see you, but I love and appreciate guys like that because they value things that we don't talk about. And that's Michael Pratt. I'm getting a Tulane hat. I couldn't find the Tulane hat I wanted, but I'm going to pull up and get me a Tulane hat because I do like the Green Wave. I think they get more with less than many schools in America. I think it's great. And they beat Southern Cal and Caleb Williams in the Cotton Bowl. Think about that.
All right. Josh on the Titan MR text line says, QBJC, D1 Baseball released their All-American teams today. 4 Gators were included. All-American first team, Wyatt Langford, Jack Caglione as a DH. Second team, Josh Rivera and Hurston Waldrop. Congratulations to those guys. There were a bunch of guys that went in the transfer portal yesterday. Probably the one guy that the name rings a bell, Derek Fabian, Judd Fabian's brothers in the transfer portal. So I think it was a total of 6 or 7 Gator baseball players heading into the portal.
My man Fabian, he came from Ocala. Did you know?
Yes, he's the brother of Judd Fabian.
Judd Fabian. So the Ragin' Review, which I believe comes from Lafayette, Louisiana, which is the University of Louisiana. Congratulations on a fantastic season for the Florida Gators. Unfortunately, though, amateurism is dead, and you indeed can buy yourself a national championship. Geox. So
that's a Raging Cajun.
That's the Raging Cajun. Ragin' Review. It tweeted, thank you. Thank you for playing Florida. Meanwhile, there's LSU buying themselves a national championship.
Well, I guess you could say they did. I mean, they had a bunch of transfer. Obviously, two of their really good players were transferred. Tommy White and Skeens. Now, look, Florida's got a bunch of transfers coming in next year.
Yeah, it's a part of the world we live in, and I'm fine with it because if everybody's doing it, then it's nothing different, right? It's what we do now. You have to be able to adjust. But I do understand what the Ragin' Review is saying, and they did congratulate the Florida Fighting Gators for what was truly a fantastic season. And it's unfortunate because they're not going to be compared to the 2017 because the 2017 team won a national championship. But if you put them on the field, who would win 3 out of 5? Who would win 4 out of 7? And so, I'd say both teams, and certainly this last one we had, is every bit as good as the one that won it in 2017. We all know that.
Yes, indeed. JC, our Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte surrounding areas. Our picks for the Rocket Mortgage Classic. Who's got better players going right now, me or you?
Well, that first round, usually I'm a weekend watcher when it comes to golf. But
maybe if your guys don't make the cut, you're screwed.
You're totally screwed. We've got a guy named T. Moore, who's in first. One of your Jay Sue is in second.
He's an American, though.
Yeah, Paul or somebody Cust, Woo, Skank, Rye, Ryder. I mean, it's a real who's who up there at the leaderboard in Detroit. My guy Tony, I do have Colin Morikawa though. I took Colin Morikawa. He's 6 under. So my guy is only 3 out. I don't see any of your guys yet.
Ricky Fowler is 5 under.
He's 5 under. Okay, so he's right there. He's 5 under. I don't know where the defending champ is. I wonder why he's having trouble. He destroyed this course last year. It's the same course. I don't understand.
Well, it's a new year. I mean, it's just no different than you play that dreaded tough Crowstone Golf Club. One day you play well, the other day you play terrible. So, and you play it every day, not once a year.
You're afraid of it. But, we had a guy ask me on the course the other day, why does the QB join out here? I said,
I'd rather go dig a ditch than doing that golf course. Andy says on Facebook Live, John, would you love to see the blue-gray game resurrected? I would, Andy, because I love watching it on Christmas Day.
That was played.
You didn't watch the blue-gray game on Christmas Day?
It was played in the Crampton Bowl, wasn't it?
Yeah, Montgomery.
In the Gump. They call it the Gump. And the Crampton Bowl is here's another one that everybody's going to love. Here's some interesting information about the Crampton Bowl and the Gump. two high schools in that city, the two biggest, play their annual game. Do you know what the name of those two high schools are?
Yes, I do. I provide them of their equipment and uniform. Montgomery
right.
Lee
And
and
Jeff Davis.
Jefferson Davis.
Davis.
Both of them are outfitted by a company I work for. Now, however, they're changing their names.
Well, that was what I was going to get to next. Was that
they're changing their name to this it's like instead of just being like one person's name, like Jefferson Davis, it's going to be like the John Cornell, Shane Matthews, Steve Spurrier High School. It's like three names now.
They can do whatever they want. But when I went to college in Tuscaloosa in the 80s, I had my friends Moses and Clarence proudly wear their Jeff Davis and Robert E. Lee shirts to the dorm and to class. Robert E. Lee was in a red and white shirt. Jefferson Davis was green and yellow.
Green and gold.
Green and gold.
Green and gold. They're the volunteers, and Montgomery Lee, they're the generals.
Right, the generals, and they were red and white. And Bubba, he would wear that shirt up and down the dormitory, and he was proud of his school. So it's funny how today in a different world that we live in, things change, and they do, and they change for either the better or for the worse. But
you know what the good thing about there's only one good. It's great that they have to change the name and the logos.
Yeah,
they got to buy more stuff from me.
That's right. And so you sell to those two schools?
I sure do.
How about that? That's you're branching out your region. You're growing. Wow.
Oh, dude, I got schools in Indiana, JC. I mean, we're worldwide. We don't mess around.
Well, I want everybody to know that I just got my shirt with the Alabama elephant and the baseball bat, and I'm wearing that to the beach this weekend. And so,
why didn't you wear it today?
I know it's sitting over there on the counter. I'm an idiot. I'll wear it on Monday. How's that? I'll wear it on Monday from the beach.
Andy says there's no way Jefferson Davis can be on the side of a building.
Right. Well, but the 80s, they didn't care.
Today they didn't care. I mean, what is it, 2023? And they're just now changing the name of the school.
There you go. That's 40. So that would be exactly 41 years ago that I'm referring to these two schools in Montgomery, Alabama. So, yeah, I mean, you can't. I mean, that's just the way it is today, and that's fine. Whatever. I don't think Bubba and
the generals and the volunteers at the Crampton Bowl.
That's right, in the Crampton Bowl, red and white, green and gold. It was a huge crosstown rivalry, and my friends on campus in the dorm, they were still fighting that game. They were fighting that game in the lunchroom, cafeteria, downstairs, dinner hall, everywhere. It's great.
Brandon says it's almost too hot for golf, JC. He played Oak Marsh golf course at Amelia Island yesterday.
Oh, my God.
The pool was much better.
Well, it is oppressive, but, this is where you thrive against your opponents. Let them complain about it and worry about it, and you just go out there and hit the ball in the club face. I got a new driver I was testing out yesterday. I bought this TaylorMade Stealth driver yesterday. And honestly, God, I don't know if it's any better than my old Ping G400.
So
what the hell?
Just because we have nothing to talk about, and we're going to bore people with technology now.
I don't think it's boring. It's very important.
So I have purchased probably in the last 6 or 7 years the new drivers, whether it's the Stealth, whether it's the Epic from Cal, whatever. I still, to this day, play the Callaway Razor driver from probably 25 years ago that I hit farther than the new technology. And I'm mad because I want to play the new technology.
Yeah.
But it does not go as far as my Callaway Razor.
Isn't that crazy? That's crazy, isn't it?
25 years ago.
I know. And, Rory, they said he went from the Stealth 2 back to the Stealth 1, and TaylorMade got mad because he went from 2 back to 1. 1 is last year's generation. It's like, what? You hit the club that's best, right? What? So, I mean, I would think you were going to agree that the technology in golf clubs is better, though, than that Callaway club you have. I mean, technology.
Well, it is for everybody else, but not for me for some reason.
Yeah.
That's what.
Well, I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell a discernible difference in my distance with the new Stealth compared to the 6-year-old Ping.
Yeah, that's my point. All right, let's
But
get to this day.
shafts do change. Shafts do change. It's all about the shaft, folks.
Right. And I've put multiple shafts in it and it still don't work
Oh,
for
and
me.
I will say that one of the reasons I bought that TaylorMade shaft because the shaft was made in Taiwan, the head was made in Vietnam, and it was assembled in the USA. There was no mention of China whatsoever. So that helped immensely in my decision to buy that
Do a lot
club.
of the golf clubs come from China?
Oh, the shaft made in China, the head made in Mexico, whatever. But in this case, they weren't made in China. Now, I don't know. Maybe China owned the factories they were made in Vietnam, but whatever. It didn't say China on it. And so, not everything's made in China. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to point out here.
All right, real quick, let's get to this day in sports brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union. All right, this day in sports in 1999, the first pick of the NBA draft, the Chicago Bulls select forward from Duke University. Who is it, JC?
From Duke University, the Chicago Bulls.
1990. Chicago Bulls.
Oh boy, who is it? Grant Hill?
No, not in 1999. Would have been Elton Brand.
Yeah, Grant Hill was back in the
back in my day. That's brought to you by Campus USA Credit
I saw
Union.
Grant Hill single-handedly beat my Lon Kruger's Gators in the Charlotte Coliseum. Without Grant Hill, Duke loses. Florida plays Arkansas in the Final Four, and who knows?
Oh, I know what I wanted to get to before we get to Pat Dooley here in the second portion of today's program. Had multiple people via the YouTube comments, which we don't get to the YouTube comments very often, and a couple of texts. They all want to, JC, you got people around the world wanting to know about JC.
Sure.
So they want to know what JC stands for and maybe give them a brief, I said a brief bio of JC.
John Cornell, as in the Ivy League school. JC has been my name for life. Everybody calls me JC. And my media experience encompasses the University of Florida at Channel 5. I was a graduate student that came in and skipped ahead of all of the undergrads, much to their dismay, to become the main sports anchor at Channel 5 on the first edition, and then eventually on the 5:30 newscast.
Can you give us a brief, your first, welcome to the WRUF TV Sports?
So my first job was in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, at WHLT, CBS affiliate in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. And I went on to go, and Mike Golden would say, "Let's bring in John Cornell with sports. John, what's up? Hey, Mike, how you doing? Brett Favre is the new quarterback of the Southern Mississippi Golden Eagles. You may not know, but he's from a place called Kiln, Mississippi, and it's not that far from here. Let me give you some details." And I went in on that. That was the first interview I ever did in my life. It was Brett Favre. And then, of course, I got the job at Channel 20 here in Gainesville, and I got to cover the Florida Gators during the glory years of the 1990s with Coach Spurrier, some guy named Shane Matthews, and some guy named Danny Werfel. And I got to follow the Gators as they went through the Southeastern Conference like a bulldozer. And it was the glorious time in Gator sports with the baseball team and Joe Arnold and Andy Lopez and everybody following from there, the Ernestine Weaver gymnastics teams. I was basically a Gator spokesperson on TV 20 Sports because I did more football coverage on my sportscast than any other Channel 4, Channel this, Channel that. And I was a sports director at Channel 20 in Gainesville, ABC. And I didn't get paid squat. The weatherman made more money than me. And Coach Spurrier, when I was playing golf with him at Marsh Creek and Bobby Stoops was standing there, and I was up $6 on him, got into my head by telling Bobby or asking him, "Hey, Bobby, you know what JC made in his last year at TV 20 there? He was talking to me about it and how upset he was, and that's why he's changing careers." "No, Coach, I have no idea what JC made in his final year at Channel 20. "Well, he made about 28 grand. Didn't you do that in the first quarter against Kansas State last year?" So, that's why I left the TV business. They didn't pay me anything. They gave the weatherman $20,000 more than what I got, so he could sit there and read a computer printout and tell everybody it's going to rain when it's not, or not going to rain when it does. And that's what they decided to pay people. But I love Alan and all those guys over TV 20. Paige Beck's a good friend. But that's it.
Chris says the weatherman should make more.
Sure, Chris. And then I got to meet great people like you and all of these other guys from friend of ours from Mississippi, and basically we got to do radio. And the next thing you know, JC and the QB was on 105 The Game in the morning. It's a morning drive show, the only morning sports drive program in the Gainesville market locally that provided local content. Now, WRUF has you listening to this crap from ESPN in the morning.
Oh,
Nobody
terrible.
wants to listen.
It's so
Nobody
bad.
wants to listen to it. But for some reason, we don't have a local sports talk. But we do have Matthews in the morning on a podcast every morning at 8
Tony wants to know on Facebook Live, does JC know Terry Bradshaw?
I think I've met him.
Yeah, no, because that's Buddy's boy. Buddy and Terry.
Well, Terry's, I love Terry. But yes, he is close with Buddy Martin. But I think I did meet Terry Bradshaw at some event or whatever. I got to do a lot of great things as a sportscaster. I complain about what my compensation was, but the benefits far outweighed the lack of income. And it was a great time, and it was a great job to have. It really was. But I just couldn't afford it to continue working there. And I didn't have an agent and all this other stuff. This was before cell phones. This was before the internet. This was before email. It was before all of that stuff. Okay, that's the thing. And we did the old-fashioned way there. I actually wrote scripts, produced video, edited video, shot video, interviewed people. I presented.
And Tony says, now look at JC. He changed careers and he's in a $3 million home now.
I tell you, you do have to make changes in your life sometimes. But Ron Zook said something funny to me in the locker room after the Gators won a game. And, he won a lot of games. People forget that. He goes, Johnny, at 11:30 when you come on, do you ever consider the fact that most of the people watching you are naked? I go, Ron, I really didn't consider that, Coach. It was a joke. He was making fun. But I loved Ron Zook. I loved Ron Zook. He was one of my all-time favorites, and I just wish it had worked for him. They only gave him $1 million on his initial contract, and when Ron Zook went to a Gator touchdown club, he spoke for as long as they wanted to be there. If he wanted to be there as the Gator coach for 2 hours, he would have been there for 3 if they'd have him. And that's just who he was, man. He was a cool guy. It's a shame that nobody today will remember those kind of players and coaches because it's so much further back. It's 30 years ago. But, man, Zooker was great. Zooker was great.
He's a good dude. Chris says here, I'm a weatherman, and I interned at TV20 in 1995.
Really? Well, then he knows me.
He must. And that's why he says he should make more money than you.
Chris, I have to go. Okay.
Chris Z.
Zellman?
Yep.
I think I do remember that name. Yeah. Dennis Phillips. Ask Chris if he remembers Dennis Phillips. But
all right. I don't know where Pat Dooley is, so we're wasting time here talking about JC's long-lost career.
We're having great. Well, the YouTubers of the world, the millions of YouTube watchers we have want to know. So there's your answer. That's my bio in 2.5 minutes right there. But I have some great stories. Yeah, I have great stories with the '90 Gators and the coaches and the players from the '90s. And the '90s was a decade, folks, that I don't think people around here. Well, many do remember it, but the new folks who are just, new Gators and young players today, it was a decade where Florida expected to dominate you in every single game. It didn't matter where you played. It didn't matter what your recruiting class was. Let me tell you how crappy LSU was back in the 90s. And when it came to Georgia, that game was a joke. They laughed Georgia out of the building. And so, those are the times that you have to kind of hold on to, but you got to let it go too, because today is what matters, right? It's about the future, but you have to remember the fun times and the history of the past, because that is a part of what defines a lot of us that talk about it. And so my school, the University of Alabama, we were trash. We were absolute trash in the 80s and 90s. Not good at all. And then Gene Stallings somehow won it in 92. After that, everybody got on probation. And so, Antonio Langham, who picked you off and who was a great player for Alabama, he was taking money from agents after the Sugar Bowl. That wasn't allowed, apparently, or before the Sugar Bowl when we blew Miami right out of the building. So, Lamar knows this. Our friend Lamar Thomas, he's a great player, but George Teague ran him down. And I'm not trying to bring up bad memories for Lamar, but it's funny. It's damn funny. And I love Lamar, and I love his brother. His brother over here teaches at Ironwood. Go get a golf lesson. He's wonderful, Eric. But I tell you, man, the 90s were a great decade. That Alabama-Florida rivalry was really good in the 90s. And I think Florida won a few more than Alabama did back then.
We did.
But it was close, though, QB. You have to admit that was a great robbery in the 90s.
Mike says on Facebook Live, JC couldn't afford slacks. Every time he was in the sports room, sports guys had shorts on.
Well, listen, I just told you I didn't make any money back then. Thank God I married a nurse. She had some money. We had a dual income. But it's like Coach said, I made the same amount of money in my final year as a TV sportscaster as Bobby Stoops earned in 1 quarter in a Big 8 or Big 12 football game. And then I hit the ball dead left into somebody's backyard and went OB. That would have
Greg
been
wants to know, JC, any dirt on the QB from the 90s? I
On
laid
who?
low.
My mother once saw you walking across campus, and this is going to embarrass you, but I don't care. She saw you walking across campus, and she said, Johnny, how's your friend Shane doing? And she asks me this today. I go, oh, he's wonderful. He's doing great. He's the announcer for the football team, and he's selling sporting goods and so
socks and jocks.
Yeah, she goes, I'll tell you what. He was such a handsome young man, so tall and dark complected. Oh, but I wonder if he was lost, because a lot of times he really didn't look at you. He just walked by you. And I said, well, Mom, you're not, you're just another person. What do you expect? But she really thought you were a looker. And she keeps asking me about you. So that's old Nat.
Yeah.
You met my mom. You met my mom.
Yes, I know your mom. Yep.
Yeah.
I think she's taller than you, JC.
Oh my God. No. As we age, we shrink. We don't grow.
Oh, is that what it is?
Well, that's what I was told.
Yeah, I don't know what Dooley must have overslept. So
You're
we're going
right
to keep
about
going here. John says, I think it was the 90s where the bar was set too high, almost unreachable. Well, I don't know how old John is, but people got to remember, this is where I get in arguments. Dooley's here, so we'll talk about this. He was eating. He was eating his breakfast. So we got to take a break and come back.
What was that thought you were saying? This is where people get in arguments about what?
Because Florida's only had a small period of time from, say, you got to take the Pale teams, yes. 84, 85, and then you take the Spurrier era and then the few years of Urban. That's pretty much all of Florida football from a winning standpoint. So,
correct. That's right.
All right, let's take a quick time out. Appreciate your commentary today, JC.
We'll see you Monday. Happy 4th of July weekend, everybody.
All right, that's JC joins on the Titan Heart Line. Take a quick time out. Come back. We'll be joined by Pat Dooley. You're watching and listening to PodUp with Matthews in the morning. We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peaceland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte.
Campus USA Credit Union.
QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Dave & Buster's, eat, drink, play, and watch. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co., Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, Doreen Wibby, Realtor Caldwell Banker, MM Parish. Our touchdown sponsors are Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Aver and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Q Billiards and Sports Bar. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Pro football legend Emmitt Smith understands your joint pain.
It does not surprise me that there are a ton of people out there that's in pain.
That's why Emmitt is such a proponent of QC Kinetics, offering real lasting joint pain relief with non-surgical, all-natural biologic treatments.
Whether it's a joint pain, ankle pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, back pain, hip pain, any kind of pain, the body eventually will break down when it's under that much stress.
That stress can cloud your judgment to the point that you'll just say yes to the scalpel or yes to another prescription prescription of pain pills. But maybe it's time for a second opinion from QC Kinetics.
The reason why I would recommend this is because the natural biologics that QC Kinetics is providing you gives your body a chance to naturally heal itself.
Restorative regenerative solutions are here. Get lasting relief and live your life.
Call QC Kinetics 352-400-4550. That's 352-400-4550. QC Kinetics 352-400-4550.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration points where the Gators go to celebrate with premium brands like Regal Cinemas, Prime and Pearl, Dave & Buster's, Nike, Skechers, F45, and the HBC's restaurant Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, the #1 celebrity polished casual restaurant in America. We'll see you at Celebration Point. We go to the Titan Lamar Hotline now. We're joined by the one and the only, Pat Dooley. How we doing, Pat?
I'm good.
How's your golf? How's the golf game?
It's not good right now. I may try to get out and work on it a little bit today. It's been a struggle lately for some reason.
Well, it's hot as hell, so you need to go early in the morning.
Oh, I almost felt I had to take a hole off on Sunday. I said, I think I'll sit this hole out. It got the dehydration got to me.
Yeah, it can. It's brutal right now outside. Pat, we appreciate you taking the time to join the program. First of all, I want to get your thoughts. Pretty much athletic seasons are over for the University of Florida, and I know you sports writers like to grade stuff. What kind of grade would you give the overall sports program at the University of Florida after this year?
Well, it would be a skewed grade. It would be graded on a curve because I would give it a B. Because football let them down and basketball let them down. You know, I mean, look, soccer is terrible right now. I don't know
how is that possible.
I don't know, but they're terrible. But I think every Gator fan can live with that.
Oh,
what
yeah.
You can't live is with football and basketball both being bad, especially football. Football's the front porch of the university, and for it to be 6 and 7 2 years in a row. I keep getting asked this question about does the success in baseball and golf and track and everything make up for it, and for what happened in football? And I said, well, no, it doesn't. It just doesn't. I mean, football is still 1, and then probably 1A and 1B, and then we get down to basketball is now battling baseball and gymnastics for the second most popular sport on campus. But the bottom line is Florida's, as always, had great teams all over the place, but when they're bad in football, that's all anybody can remember.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's the moneymaker, football and men's basketball. They need to do well. John's got a question for you here, brought to you by Melon Law. He says, ask Dooley about his top 12 Florida offenses. I was surprised he didn't have teams from the 90s. The 96 team was left off.
Well, he didn't read it right because it was the offenses that didn't win titles. So that was a totally different story. But and that was about teams like the 2001 team, which was a great offense. The Kyle Trask team, which didn't win anything. I mean, I didn't count. If you won the division, I'm not giving. That's nice, but that's not a title to me. That's just where they stick you. So, yeah. So it was all about the teams that didn't win titles. 1969 with the Reese to Alvarez team, ended up in the Gator Bowl. But so that was the point of that. There was another one I did a few months ago about the best offenses, period, and the 96 team was in that one, I believe.
Yeah. Have you ever done anything, the best defenses that never won a title?
That may be next.
Nobody cares about talking about that.
I'm running out of ideas, man. I've been doing these lists for a couple of years now, and I love doing them, and I love it for Gators Wire does a great job of helping me out with them. But yeah, I maybe best defenses that, because I always think about whether Florida wasted, and I was worried that Wyatt Langford was going to walk out of here and never go to the College World Series, for example. And you feel like that if that happens, they've wasted that talent. And that didn't happen. They didn't waste the talent. But there are some teams out there where you do feel like maybe they will. Look, I'll give you an example. The best defense, not to me, that didn't win anything was a 98 defense. with Javon Curse and those guys in there. And I think they had the best. I think they led the SEC in defense that year. But they lose to the two teams that play for the national title. Those are the only two losses. But so they didn't win anything, but that was a great defense.
Andy has a question for you here. I know what you're going to say. I'm going to disagree with it. I know because you do this on your program. Where'd it go? It says, Pat, yes, no way, or maybe. The Gators win 8+ games this upcoming football season.
Well, I will say maybe. But I'm not an optimistic maybe. I don't think they will, but I wouldn't say no way because I think that they're, we don't know enough about this team yet because this team is made up of a bunch of guys that are, basically coming in as redshirt freshmen that are going to be playing major parts in this, in this program. So and again, everybody's prediction, everything everybody wants to say about what the Gators are going to do is based on one position. You know what that is.
Which makes no sense because I think we win more than 8 games of 8. I think they're as good as they are, or maybe better.
I don't disagree with that.
And
yeah,
I think we're going to be better as a football team in year 2 under Billy Napier at every position. They're going to play better, and maybe I look like an idiot when the season starts, but I really believe we're going to win a minimum of 8 games. And I saw the other day, Pat, I was telling somebody, On 3 had the Gators ranked 20th in America.
Yeah, well, I don't see it, but again, we want to see what these guys do. And again, there's two things that happen in when we're doing polls and stuff, and that is if you lost your bowl game and your quarterback's not coming back, you're going to get ranked low. If you have your quarterback and you won your bowl game, you're going to get ranked high. Now, in a lot of cases, those have nothing to do with how good you're going to be. Mm-hmm. But because Florida lost its bowl game, was embarrassed in its bowl game with a bunch of guys that didn't want to be there, and their quarterback is gone, and we saw the spring game and it was not pretty. That's why people are down on Florida right now. But again, the spring game wasn't supposed to be an offensive show. It was supposed to try to just put the core of the offense in with guys and let them. That's such a big deal. And why don't you let us into practice? But I won't even get into that one right now.
Ruzoga State Farm offers a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visit ogreinsurance.com. Give them a call at 352-240-1779. A few more minutes with Pat Dooley. We got a text on the Titan More text line from Leroy. He says, Pat, is Wyatt Langford the best hitter you've ever seen in a Gator uniform?
Yeah, that's a good question, and that I've been trying to think about. And I don't know what my answer is yet. I got to let it separate a little bit. But to me, the best I've ever seen is between him and Wilkerson. Now, Wilkerson, the thing that made Wilkerson so good is he comes in as a freshman and hits over 400 his first year. Then he says, I want to hit with more power, and he sets a home run record. So that was pretty impressive. And he was pitching at the same time, as a starter and a closer at the beginning and then a starter later on. So he's still the best, but this is the first guy that I've ever said, well, maybe Wilkerson's not the best. Maybe Langford. Because I remember sitting here last game of the year, and he got up and I went, Wyatt, we can't ask you to do it again. Go, come on, man. And then he hits the ball 440 feet or whatever. He's just that good, and he's going to make a lot of money in the next level. I'll be stunned if he doesn't. But I'm not ready to make that decision yet. I'm not quite there on who's the best player of all time at Florida, but it's one of those two.
Yeah, I mean, Wilkerson was unbelievable. But the difference and I mean, I'm trying to remember back when Brad played here, but Wyatt just swings with just authority. I mean, that ball just, and obviously technology is a little bit different. The balls are different nowadays, but he's a violent type swinger of the baseball bat, and the ball
Yeah,
just jumps off.
the bats were more nuclear back then. So
Yeah.
he's playing with softened bats, I guess you could say. But it's almost like he attacks the ball like he's angry at it.
Correct.
Know?
Yes.
And just hits it. It's not like I'm going to hit it, somewhere. Or I'm not going to do this. I'm going to hit this ball as hard as I possibly can, and it's going to go a long way. And there's nothing that ball can do about it.
Yeah. All right, Pat. Last text here on the Titan Tomorrow text line. We'll get you out of here. From Jimmy, he says, Pat, your thoughts on the recruiting class that Billy Napier's putting together?
Well, it seems to be impressive. And there's also, I don't get too caught up in recruiting classes this time of year just because guys are going to drop off. They're not going to be. They say they're committed, but they're not committed. They say, I'm coming home. Well, I decided I'm changing my home. I don't want these guys anymore to be saying, I'm coming home. This is where you're starting your career, okay? This is where you're coming to start your career. We all know you're probably going to leave because everybody is leaving now. So everybody's in the portal. And that's the biggest problem I think we have. Of all these problems everybody talks about with college football is tampering in the portal. But it seems like he's putting together a really good class. So I always want to wait and see him. Will Muschamp used to have that saying, we'll wait 3 years, we'll evaluate this class. No, we got to do it now. Everybody wants it now. So, but it looks like a really good class, and it looks like he's getting the defense rebuilt. That to me is the biggest part of it. He's got to rebuild this defense because when you're the historically worst defense than ever, and then you're worse the next year, that's hard to do. I didn't know that was possible at the University of Florida, that you could give up 1 million first downs and then give up 1,010,000 the next year. So
yeah, it's been an issue. It's I've said the last 3 or 4 years we've had the worst front seven for an SEC football team that I've seen in years, and I think it's going to be tremendously better this year. Pat, before we get you out of here, let everybody know you're retired, but you're not retired. You're still doing a lot of writing. You do a lot of podcasting, a lot of sports talk with Cardozo. Just let everybody know, if they've been sleeping under a rock, where they can read your stuff and how they can listen to you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm still writing for Gators Wire, about 2 a week for them, and then I'm writing for the alumni newsletter, which I'm getting ready. I'm finishing up a story for them this morning on just what we talked about. Does all these other sports doing so well make up for football? Then I'm writing for I'm doing my podcast 2 days a week. I'm doing my radio show sometimes 5 days a week, although lately we've had a lot of days off. So just staying busy. I never wanted to retire from writing. I just wanted to retire from the newspaper. I couldn't help it. Robbie and I saw a great opportunity to take a buyout, and we knew another one wasn't going to come, and we said, sayonara.
Well, good deal. Well, we appreciate you taking the time to join our program. Enjoy the off season, so to speak. Get that golf game right. Talking season. Make sure you're hydrating out there, and we'll talk to you soon, Pat.
All right. Great talking to you, Shaner.
All right. That's Pat Dooley. Join us on the Titan Tomorrow hotline. Silverback Concrete's a family-led team of heavy concrete specialists that build commercial structures with unrivaled quality. Hope you enjoyed today's program. I want to thank Pat and JC for joining us on the Titan Tomorrow hotline. We'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend. Take care.